Okay, so to kick off this deep dive, I want you to hold two images in your head, two very different images.
Okay, I'm ready.
On the left side of the room, picture Mark Manson, the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck.
Right. The stop trying so hard guy. The frat bro philosopher we all kind of love.
Exactly. He's got a t-shirt on, he's a little cynical, probably dropping an F-bomb about how we're all trying way too hard to be happy.
Got him.
Okay. Now, on the right side of the room, picture someone completely different. A hardcore cyberneticist in, like, a cold, windowless server room.
Surrounded by whiteboards and calculus.
Yes. Feedback loops, neural networks, the whole thing. The kind of person who looks at a human and sees a biocomputer.
Right. Not a person, but a data processing machine.
Precisely. Now, you'd think these two people have absolutely nothing to say to each other.
One is pop psychology. The other is dense mathematical systems theory.
But the source material we're diving into today, this document called Multicode 4.0, claims they're actually saying the exact same thing.
It is. It's a wild synthesis. I'll be honest, when you first sent this, I thought, is this a stretch?
Right.
Are we trying to connect dots that just aren't there?
Yeah.
But the more I got into it, the more it just clicked. The source calls it the cybernetic architecture of being.
Which sounds like a sci-fi novel I would 100% read.
It really does.
Uh-huh.
But the premise is surprisingly grounded in biology. It argues that all that self-help stuff about letting go or finding your values, it isn't just fluff.
Okay.
It's actually the most efficient way to run the human machine. The core idea is that we operate as a hierarchical control system. We're not just living, we are, in a sense, computing.
And that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not just talking about how to feel better. We're figuring out how to, and I love this phrase, recalibrate the human algorithm.
And let's be honest, that algorithm feels pretty glitchy for most of us right now.
Glitchy is an understatement. The source calls it existential entropy, information overload, chronic anxiety, just too much noise.
And the usual advice is chill out, care less. But Multicode 4.0 says you can't just delete the code, you have to rewrite it.
And to do that, you have to pop the hood and actually look at the hardware.
You have to understand the machine.
So let's start there, the hardware. The document kicks off with a concept that sounds like it's from a physics class, the free energy principle.
Right.
Now, I hear free energy, and I'm thinking, solar panels or something, but that's not what Carl Friston, the neuroscientist behind it, is talking about, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And it's really crucial we nail this down because everything else we're going to talk about today kind of hinges on this one idea.
Okay, lay it on us.
In this context, free energy is essentially a measure of the difference between your internal model of the world and the actual reality outside your head.
Okay, so unpack that. My model is what I expect to happen. My prediction.
Exactly. And reality is, well, what actually happens. And as a biological system, your primary directive, your survival instinct, is to minimize that gap.
Minimize free energy.
You have to. Think about it evolutionarily. If your model says that tiger is friendly, and reality says that tiger is about to eat you, that's a massive gap.
That is a fatal error message. Game over.
Right. That's high free energy. It's a huge error signal. So your brain is just obsessively, constantly trying to close that gap. It wants the map to perfectly match the territory.
So we're not just passively seeing the world, we're actively predicting it.
Inference machines.
Yeah.
We're projecting our map onto the world before we even really see it. And when reality doesn't match our map, we experience something called surprisal.
Surprisal. I like that word. It sounds fun. Like a party.
It's definitely not a party.
Yeah.
In brain language, surprisal is stress. It's cortisol. It's the alarm bell screaming. Your map is wrong. Prediction failed.
Okay, and this is where it clicks back to Mark Manson for me, because his whole thing is about being selective with what you care about.
Precisely. Think about your bandwidth, just as a system. You can't process every single error signal. If you felt maximum surprisal every time your coffee was a little too cold or the Wi-Fi was slow,
your system would crash. You'd just be paralyzed.
Exactly. You'd be paralyzed by noise.
So not giving a feck isn't about being indifferent or a nihilist. It's actually a filtering mechanism.
It's a strategic prioritization of error signals.
Yeah.
It's your brain deciding, okay, this discrepancy, it's noise, ignore it. Don't waste energy updating the model for this.
That's a huge reframe. Letting things slide isn't lazy, it's optimization. You're saving your processing power for the big stuff.
But here's the trap. Here's where the modern human machine breaks down. What happens when the system starts feeding back on itself?
The feedback loop from hell. I don't think I've ever related to a diagram more in my entire life. I think everybody listening knows this one.
Oh, it's the classic spiral.
Yeah, let's walk through it. So you get anxious about something, a presentation at work, maybe.
Right.
Then you notice you're anxious, and you think, I shouldn't be anxious. Be confident. What's wrong with me? And now you're anxious about being anxious.
And then you get angry that you're anxious about being anxious.
And depressed that you're angry. It's infinite. It just keeps spinning.
In cybernetics, we have a name for that. It's a positive feedback loop with an amplification factor greater than 1.
Okay, break that down, because positive feedback sounds like a good thing, like a compliment.
You'd think so. But in systems theory, positive just means additive. Think of a microphone getting too close to a speaker, that high-pitched screech.
The one that makes everyone in the room dive for cover.
That's positive feedback. The output, the sound goes back into the input, the mic gets amplified, and loops again, louder and louder. It's uncontrolled oscillation.
So that screech, that's my panic attack.
That screech is your panic attack. It's your spiraling depression. Your brain is putting the mic too close to the speaker.
And yelling at myself to calm down just makes it louder.
Because you're just adding more noise to the loop, you're feeding the mic, you need a damping signal, you have to cut the amplification.
And this is what Manson calls radical acceptance.
Yes, but look at it mechanically. By accepting the first emotion, by just saying, okay, I'm anxious right now, that's a valid data point. You stop the feedback.
You don't feed the output back into the input.
You let the wave pass through without amplifying it.
It's so counterintuitive. Our instinct is to fix the negative feeling. But the source is saying the attempt to fix it is the glitch.
Because you're treating a feature like a bug. The anxiety is just a signal. If you treat this signal as a threat, you create a meta-threat. Radical acceptance stabilizes the whole system.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the machine's glitch. Now let's talk about the programming language. The source calls this value architecture.
This is how you actually configure the system. If the brain is the hardware, your values are the weighting factors in the algorithm. They define success and failure.
And this was a big aha moment for me. We think of values as these lofty moral ideas, but here they're just metrics. They're literally the KPIs of your life.
And just like in a business, some KPIs are terrible. The source divides them into good values and bad values, based entirely on how stable they make the system.
Okay, so let's look at bad values. The source lists things like popularity, material wealth, or always being right. Why are those bad systemically?
Because they rely on variables you do not control.
External dependencies.
Totally. If your value is being popular, your stability depends on what other people think of you. That is a recipe for high-frequency surprisal. You're giving the remote control to strangers.
So good values must be internal.
You're process-oriented and internally validated. Things like honesty or curiosity or vulnerability. You can control if you're honest. You can't control if people like your honesty.
So if my value is be honest, and I tell the truth, my part is done, the loop is closed, I don't need the applause.
Correct. The error signal is 0. The system is stable.
There's this law mentioned here, Ashby's law of requisite variety. It sounds heavy, but the source makes a huge deal out of it.
It is the golden rule of cybernetics. W. Ross Ashby. He said, only variety can destroy variety.
Meaning what, exactly?
It means that to control a system, like your life,
Yeah.
you need to have at least as many available responses as the system has potential problems.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine a tennis player who only knows how to hit a forehand. Well, that's low variety.
Right.
If they play against someone who can hit backhands, lobs, slices high variety, the low variety player is going to lose every time. The opponent has more variety than the player.
Okay, so how does this apply to our values?
This is the really cool part. If your value is, I must always be cool and strong, you have very low variety.
Because the second I feel weak or awkward, I have no move. I'm done.
You're done. Your system crashes.
Mm-hmm.
But if your value is vulnerability, the willingness to be exposed, you've just massively increased your variety.
Because now I can handle being cool and I can handle being weak. I can handle success and failure.
Exactly. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's high bandwidth adaptability. It satisfies Ashby's law. You've more options than life has problems.
Wow. Okay. So we've upgraded the software, but there's a deeper layer, the root driver. And this is where it gets a little dark. We're talking Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death.
Yeah, we have to go there. If values are the software, terror management is the operating system's kernel. Becker's theory is that human civilization is basically one giant, elaborate defense mechanism
Against what?
against the realization that we're going to die.
It's the ultimate surprisal. The ultimate error signal that you can't fix.
It's the unfixable error. So to cope, we build what the source calls immortality projects.
The things we do to try and live forever.
Right. Some are literal religion, the afterlife,
Mm.
but the symbolic ones are everywhere. Your career, your fame, your art, your legacy, even your kids.
They're all attempts to extend the self beyond its biological expiration date.
I might die, but my company will live on. My name will be on this building. It works temporarily. It lowers the free energy. It tells the brain, don't worry, you're permanent.
But those projects are so fragile.
Extremely. If the project fails, you get fired, your reputation is ruined. The system faces what's called psychic entropy.
Which feels like severe depression.
It's a total collapse of the model. The shield against death is gone, and you're just staring into the abyss.
And this is where Manson's sunny side of death comes in. He argues we need to stop building these brittle shields.
It's the ultimate stabilization move.
Mm.
By accepting mortality, by dropping the ego's need to be this hero who lives forever, you stop fighting a battle you are guaranteed to lose.
It's heavy, but it's also incredibly freeing. If I'm not trying to be an immortal god, I can just be a person having a conversation. The pressure is just gone.
The error signal goes to zero. But even with that, life still hurts. And the source makes a strong point here. Suffering is a feature, not a bug.
Let's talk about the smoke detector principle, because I think our culture tries to pathologize every bad feeling.
Right. We think if we feel bad, something must be broken.
Yeah.
But think about a smoke detector. It's designed to be annoying. It goes off when you burn toast. That's a false positive.
Right.
But a false positive is cheap. It's a minor annoyance, a miss, a real fire that the alarm doesn't catch that costs you everything.
So nature designed our anxiety system to be like a super sensitive smoke detector.
Exactly. Better safe than sorry. It's calibrated for physical danger. But now, we live in a physically safe world full of social dangers.
So that smoke detector is constantly going off for an awkward email or a weird look from someone.
It's a hardware-software mismatch. We're stuck in hypervigilance. And this can lead to a really dangerous trap. The source calls victimhood chic.
Ooh, that's a spicy one. Choosing victimhood as an identity.
Yeah, we have to tread carefully here, but from a purely cybernetic view, it's a disaster. If your identity is victim, you're essentially programming your system to believe you have no control.
You're giving up your agency.
You're creating a parasitic feedback loop. You might get sympathy, which feels good for a second, but you degrade your system's ability to adapt. You violate Ashby's law by voluntarily reducing your response options to zero.
So if that's the trap, where do we go? The source zooms way out here to the evolution of the whole species. Metasystem transition.
This is the big picture stuff, the idea that evolution happens in leaps. Single cells become a multicellular organism. That's a metasystem transition.
And the argument is we're in one now.
HMST 4.0. We are merging our biological existence with our digital existence.
The digital phonetic hybrid. I mean, just look at how we talk. Emojis, code, AI text. I send my wife a thumbs up emoji and it carries a paragraph's worth of meaning.
We're offloading cognition into the cloud. But there's a huge risk. The source warns of the hollow human.
This sounded straight out of a Black Mirror episode, the market-optimized person.
Right. If we just follow the path of least resistance, minimizing free energy by scrolling, buying, seeking comfort, we become empty shells. We become soulless nodes in a corporate network.
Just batteries for the algorithm.
Versus the integral species,
Which is
the one that connects to the global brain, but keeps its soul. It uses technology to increase consciousness, not numb it. But there's a firewall blocking this upgrade.
Manson's law of avoidance.
The more something threatens your identity, the more you avoid it.
That hits home. If I identify as the smart one, I will avoid any situation where I might look dumb, which means I stop learning.
It is literally a firewall preventing system updates. The system chooses coherence, being right, over adaptation, getting better.
So how do we get past the firewall? How do we hack that law?
You have to change the reward function. Right now, our brains code uncertainty as a threat. We have to learn to code it as a dopamine reward.
We need to get a high from not knowing the answer.
Kinda, yeah. You need to see the unknown as incentive salience. That's the fancy term for, ooh, I want to explore that. If you can train yourself to get a dopamine hit from being wrong, from being challenged, you become unstoppable.
A learning machine, not a knowing machine.
You shift from defending your identity to expanding it.
Okay, so we're nearing the end, and the source wraps it all up in this multi-code equation. It's not really math, it's more like a recipe.
It's the solution to the optimization problem of being human. 4 variables, V, R, T, A.
Let's run through them fast. V is for values.
Internal metrics.
Yeah.
Focus on the process, not the outcome. Measure your own effort, not the applause.
R is for responsibility.
Accepting your role as the inference agent. You're responsible for how you interpret the data, even if the data isn't your fault. You didn't cause the rain, but you carry the umbrella.
T is for terror management.
Transforming those immortality projects. Instead of building a monument to your ego, you contribute to the global brain. You help the species learn.
And finally, A is for adaptability.
Maximizing variety. Ashby's law. Being vulnerable enough to handle anything.
And kind of floating over all of this is the backwards law.
The paradox that ties it all together. The desire for positive experience is itself a negative experience. The acceptance of negative experience is itself a positive experience.
It's so true. Wanting to be happy creates a lack, a gap. That makes you miserable. But being okay with being miserable, that closes the gap.
Because you stop fighting the error signal. You accept the friction, and you realize the friction is what gives you traction.
The source ends on this really empowering note, that we aren't slaves to the code, we're the programmer.
Freedom isn't having no constraints, that's just chaos. Freedom is choosing which control parameters you submit to. You choose what you give a fuck about, that's the programming.
So we've gone from Mark Manson dropping F-bombs to the cybernetic architecture of being. It's been a ride.
It really has. We've basically taken the human machine apart and put it back together.
If you take one thing away from this whole deep dive, what should it be?
For me, it's that the goal isn't to stop feeling. It's not to stop predicting. You can't. You're a prediction machine. The goal is to become a cybernetic organism that learns to love the process of error correction.
To love debugging yourself.
Exactly. To see the error not as a failure, but as an update.
And here's a final thought to leave you with, something that sort of jumps out from the logic of all this.
Go for it.
If the universe is a giant system trying to become self-aware through us, and if suffering is just the friction required for that learning, then your personal struggles aren't bugs.
They're data.
The data the universe needs to learn, it gives the struggle a purpose.
It changes the entire frame.
So the question to ask yourself is, what error signal in your life have you been ignoring or numbing out that is actually an invitation to upgrade the entire system?
That's the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us.
See you in the next loop. Take care.